We need to talk about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger acquisition thing. I saw a poll online, and this is not one of those things where I saw one person say something and I'm going to outrage farm based upon what one obscure person said. I saw a poll and it said, is this going to be good for consumers, yes or no? And it was an overwhelming yes vote. Since when was consolidation ever good for consumers? Before we get into talking about all this money, let me show you my new wallet. Like most highly sophisticated people, I wear ridiculously tight jeans. I got tired of how bulky this was in my jeans, and this is the smallest leather wallet I could find. And that's when I also searched my inbox to see if anybody had messaged about wallets. And sure enough, one of the companies I was looking at, Exter, they had messaged me about checking out some wallets. And I'm so glad I did. We're going to be able to give you 25% off, so just keep watching. Exter makes very modern, sleek wallets. This is an aluminum card holder. You can also get it in carbon fiber if you're fancy. But I got the aluminum. It's space grade aluminum, very sturdy. And there's just a lever on the bottom that lets you press the lever. All your cards will fan out. Ooh, look at that. Grab that one and then put them all back. I've messed with this lever quite a bit, and it's worked every time. We've also got the band here, and that allows you to expand things on the back. As you can see, I've got some money on there and a couple of other things. You can protect your identity with the RFID blocking layer, and that'll fend off all the data thieves out there. And then I also have a tracker card in here. When I travel, I'll probably use one on my wallet and throw an extra one in my backpack. The tracker card syncs up with an app, so if you ever lose it, just pop open your phone, and it'll tell you, oh, it's at the cafe or whatever. If the aluminum and carbon fiber card holders are a little bit too small, you can also get this leather wallet. It gives you a little bit more room. It's got the card holder, put some more stuff, got the traditional leather. I actually like the way this one looks quite a bit. So let me know what your stack's going to be. Mine right now is just the RFID blocker, the aluminum card holder, and the tracker card. Sorry I missed Father's Day. I was working on a game jam, but we still have 25% off. Check out the link in the description and head on over to Exter to get yourself a modern day wallet. Look what Disney has done with all of the brands and everything that it has acquired. But first off, I want to show you where some of this is coming from. It's not just the console wars of nonsense. It's not just a bunch of fans of Microsoft Xbox just being like, yeah, eat it, suck it, PlayStation fans. A lot of it starts with this message that we're hearing, and I'll play it right now. Well, let's continue this narrative.
Good news, I think, is starting to prevail that ultimately, if it's good for the consumer, the government can't just block everything. And right now the government's been in a block everything. And as we've said repeatedly, in many of these...
So did you hear what he said there? If it's good for the consumer. And when I first heard that, I was like, oh, he's going to argue that it's bad for the consumer because he's saying if, but let's keep going.
These examples, these deals are actually good for consumers. They're good for pricing. They're good for choice. And
they're good for pricing. They're good for choice. Having one corporate overlord own everything is good for pricing and good for choice. You know, back in the day, our government used to break up monopolies by saying it's bad for consumers, it's bad for the market. We don't want to have just one company that controls everything. But now a lot of these companies have been going to the lawmakers and saying, listen, this whole, like anti-monopoly thing, that wasn't to try to stop the corporations from becoming too big. That was mainly to protect the people. And we believe that it's better for the people if there's less competition because one giant mega company can come in and control the entire supply chain, and we can lower the prices for them and we can take better care of them, and it's more convenient because now instead of having to go through multiple different companies and go to one store to get your cheese and go to a different store to get your vegetables, we can go to one store and buy everything, and it's cheaper and easier for the consumers. So we believe that monopoly laws were designed to protect consumers from having to deal with nonsense. And since everything under one roof is good, we can essentially make the world a better place. That's kind of what they're saying. We hear that narrative from him. The judge who rejected this. All right, so here they're all like talking about protecting consumers by allowing massive monopolies and mergers. She says, it's not the harm to Sony we care about, it's the harm to the consumers. So and that she blocked the FTC's complaints. This face right here, this is the person who decided that they should be allowed to merge because it's good for the consumers. So it's good for the consumers that Microsoft is going to have a huge share of the market, massive share of the market, and that they're going to be able to put all that stuff on their console and withhold it from other consoles. How is that good for the consumers? Oh, well, they're going to give them a better thing, because then they can get all this stuff under one umbrella. They can get all their stuff from Bethesda and its software, and since they've got it all, they'll just lower the prices. Every piece of empirical data shows that when companies like Amazon exist, and once they completely destroy all the mom and pops and all the small competition, they don't lower their prices. That would be insane for them to do. Once there's no other choices for the consumers, they can just raise their prices as high as they want. And that is what they have done. That's why we've seen record inflation. It's not because we're printing gazillions of dollars. That's a small piece of it. The truth is that the companies are just extremely greedy. So inflation is just a measure of how much the price of goods has gone up. And, the price of the people are getting paid is about the same. So that makes the inflation go up. That's how it works. It's not just printing money. Printing money is bad for inflation. If the wages don't go up, that's not happening, so that's bad. But then the companies are raising their prices on things, and they're not giving raises to their employees. And whenever their employees complain, they either get fired, or they say, oh, we don't have any money. And then you look at the actual news, and they're all posting record profits. That's what inflation is. And that's what happens when only a few companies control everything. They can set the prices to be whatever they want, and you have to pay it or go without. Let's go over some reminders here. This is all the stuff that Disney has been allowed to acquire. There's all this stuff. And there are so many interesting franchises that Disney has acquired, and they have just kind of disappeared. We don't really hear about them anymore. And that's because they're not billion-dollar franchises. And this is kind of what I want to look at this for companies like Microsoft and Tencent. So those are the two of the biggest companies in the world right now when it comes to the share of the video game industry. But once you get that big, you can start to set different guidelines and completely squash culture. They start shoving everything into this tiny little box that everything has to be made a certain way. The certain formula has to be used, and we have to produce stuff that's going to, hit mass appeal. That leaves out a lot of the fringes. A lot of the counterculture is just completely gone. When one company is allowed to control this much of our culture, it kind of starts to destroy the culture. Look at this. This is another thing. Warner Brothers, they're the other thing. Like, you got Disney and you got Warner Brothers, and they own all this, and we've got Multiversus the game, which I guess looks fun. But, it's a good way to look and just see how ridiculous all this is. You have Superman in the same game as Arya Stark, in the same game as Bugs Bunny, in the same game as Shaggy, in the same game as Batman, in the same game as Tom and Jerry, in the same game as Wonder Woman, in the same game as Adventure Time. Finn the Human. That's what I was looking for. Now, I guess some people think that that's awesome, but it's weird. It's really weird that all of this culture is just kind of slammed together. Okay, I think it's a little gross. Whether the game's fun or not, and all this is make-believe and it's all silly, but I really miss the individual quirkiness that each individual thing has, each individual brand. And this is just me ranting right now. All right, I think that's kind of what's going to happen with all this Microsoft stuff. If we get that much under one umbrella, it's going to be bad for culture. And that's the main thing that I really care about. The money is really important, and I think it will be bad for consumers. It will remove choices from consumers. You'll have to choose one platform over the other to make sure that you get the games that you want. And a lot of franchises are just going to vanish because they don't measure up. And, a big company like that, they can't focus on everything. They're going to put a gazillion dollars in just a few big silos, and all the rest of it's going to be like whatever. Like, look what happened to Deus Ex. Like, where the hell is that? They're probably busy working on some nonsense. I think it got sold. I don't even know. But yeah, it's weird. And then when you look at the cost of these things, and this is, again, I'm just kind of ranting out of turn right now, but when a company like Microsoft buys something like this, they don't like to use the word buy. They're shifting value around. It's like they'll trade value in their stock for all of that property, and their value stays the same. You know what I mean? They've given up this much of their own value in their stocks and whatever money, maybe, and they've acquired all these things. So to them, their value is still the same, and they're still living by taking out loans based upon their stocks, and that's how they live because they don't have to pay taxes on the loans they've taken out. That's how the rich do it. Anyway, we'll have to see what happened. I know the FTC is going to fight this. A very bad precedent, because something on this scale, it's huge, and if the FTC loses its appeal, we're going to see so much consolidation so quickly, and it's going to start transferring wealth to the top even faster. Hopefully this will go through. I'm making the video before I know what's happening with this, but hopefully the appeal becomes a thing. Hopefully they get a little more focus, but this is not going to be good for you. This is not something that you should be gloating about on social media. This is not a way to like score one against the other console people that you hate so much. This is not that. This is bad for all of us. It's bad for culture. It'll set a terrible precedent moving forward. That's the end of the video. I just wanted to cover some of this stuff, give you a little bit more perspective in case you're missing stuff. But yeah, I guess while we're here, we can take a look at just some of the brands that Tencent owns. I think this is a few years old. I'm not sure when this article came out. Let's see. 2022, so it's a year old. But yeah, Tencent owns all these, and they're buying up stuff as fast as they possibly can. Look at all this stuff. So yeah, Microsoft and Tencent are going to control way too much of the universe, of just the entire gaming universe. They're going to control way too much of it. And Tencent's aggressively trying to acquire more companies too. This system of, unlimited growth forever, it's going to be the end of us. We need to put a stop to it. Anybody got any guillotines they want to let me borrow? Yes. All right, we still got this going on. 30% off, take control, get one of these. They're awesome. They work in direct input and also X input. By holding down the home button for 5 seconds, you can change it. And so satisfying. The analog sticks on this are still my favorite. A million times better than the Xbox controller, in my humble opinion, and quite a bit less expensive. D-pad, I like it better than the Xbox, not as good as the PlayStation, but that's me. So I'm giving you pros and cons on something I'm trying to tell you to go buy on epicpants.com. But anyway, yeah. All right, that's the end of this. Let me know what you think. If you think it's good, give me an essay. I will read the damn thing because I don't believe it. So, yeah, I'll see you in the comments.